Okay, I know the Latin's a little weird, but let's get straight to it. Hey man, shout out to the Buffalo Sabres for getting that first playoff win in 15 years. Man, it's been a while. Also been a while since the Penguins have been in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and this is also the Mammoth's first playoff appearance as the Mammoth. Fortunately, both of my hockey teams lost their first game, so that sucks. But the draft coming up, it's not too much to think about. Well, sort of. Because I now noticed I have not done my mock draft yet. You'll be hearing that and a lot more. Of course, yes indeed, we're back! Season 3, Episode 1 of Disney Talks Football. Welcome in, everybody. Of course, in this episode, we have got ourselves NBA playoffs, still pretty something like that. Same thing with Stanley Cup playoffs, and of course, the first round of my mock draft. That has been long overdue! Just gonna do first round, not gonna do the 3-round thing, because that will take up everybody's time. I'm not gonna do that. Oh yeah, by the way, it's gonna be out for some people. We are back in a couple days. I've been doing that for the past 2 months, maybe 2.5. Not too sure, but yep. So play will resume on Thursday through Saturdays, 4:30 and 8 Eastern, 3:30 and 7 Central PM. By the way, why would you expect a game at 3:30 in the morning? But anyways, enough talk. Let's get straight to it. Of course, I'm gonna just do a quick little rundown of each of these playoff brackets before we get into the mock draft. So anyways, 1 versus 8, OKC against Phoenix. I see OKC sweeping the Suns, and Detroit against Magic will actually be entertaining. I think Magic will hold it to 6 games, but I do think Detroit will win that series. And of course, 4 versus 5, Lakers against Rockets. I saw what happened in that game. If the Lakers can beat them without Luka by double-digit points, I just don't think the Rockets have enough juice to keep up with him when the Lakers do eventually get Doncic back from injuries. So I say Lakers win in 6 games. And of course, Cleveland against Toronto. Toronto's not seasoned yet. My only reason for why Cleveland will win in 5 games. Denver against Minnesota in the 3 versus 6. This is actually going to be one of the most entertaining series of the first round. I say 7-game series, Denver wins. And of course, New York against Atlanta. Different Atlanta team this time. They don't have Trae Young, but do have Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, and also Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But nobody's stopping the Philadelphia Knicks. I'm going New York. It's 6 games. San Antonio against Portland. Portland is a very young team, so I don't think they got a chance just yet, despite having guys like Denny Avdija, Shaden Sharp, and Donovan Clingan. Because San Antonio's got one difference maker, Wembanyama. You also got Stephen Castle, Dylan Harper. San Antonio wins in 5 games in that one, and then Boston straight up wins in a sweep against Philadelphia. Well, actually no, Boston in 5. Of course, conference semifinals, OKC versus Lakers. OKC wins in 5. LeBron's not winning with that core, let's be honest. 1 versus 4 in Detroit versus Cleveland. I actually think Cleveland will do the same thing they had done to them by the Pacers last year. They're going to beat Detroit in 6 games. Not the exact same thing, but to be quite honest with you, when you're 1 seed in the East, it's like nobody knows how you're going to do. So I'm just going to take the safe bet that Cleveland will get revenge this time, beating the 1 seed to get to the conference finals for the first time since LeBron James was on Cleveland. Of course, New York, Boston. Last year, New York Knicks won because of Tatum's injury. They're not going to be so lucky this time. Boston moves on in 6. Actually, no. Boston moves on in 7. Then conference. Oh, yeah. Denver against San Antonio. That's going to be a 7-game series. And Denver will actually win. Because at the same thing I said for Toronto and Portland, they're not seasoned enough yet. So Denver moves on to take on OKC. And of course, it's Cleveland-Boston in the East. OKC versus Denver. The rematch from last year's conference semifinals. This will go to 7 games. And OKC will win again. The reason for this is because OKC has something that only Boston and sometimes Denver can rival. Great depth. OKC starters are some of the best starting lineups I have seen from each playoff team. It's just OKC has probably the best depth of any team here. And that's straight up saying facts. So OKC beats Denver in 7 games. Cleveland, Boston, I'll say Boston in 5. Cleveland's got a long way to go before they could be a title contender. Boston's really the only team in the East that can really compete with OKC or Denver. Speaking of which, NBA Finals, OKC Boston. I'm going to go OKC winning this one in 6 games. As for Finals MVP, there's only one guy. It's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So there's my NBA bracket. Moving on, we got the Stanley Cup playoff bracket. I don't know too much about hockey. I'm actually trying to get back into it since the Mammoth are in the playoffs. Let's see how this thing goes. I'm going to start with the West. Let's see. Colorado against LA Kings. I'm going Colorado Avalanche. They are a very well-seasoned team. Haven't seen Minnesota Wild in a while in the playoffs. I'm going to go Dallas over Minnesota to play Colorado. Vegas against Utah. Utah is a very new team, so I'll go Vegas. And Edmonton beats Anaheim. Then, of course, on the East, we got Buffalo against Boston. I say Boston wins in 6 games. Tampa Bay against Montreal. I think this will be a 7-game series. Montreal comes away victorious. Carolina against Ottawa. Carolina gets the sweep. And Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. 6 games. I say Pittsburgh wins. By the way, about the West, Colorado wins in 5 games. Dallas wins in 6. Vegas wins in 5. And Edmonton wins in 5. Then on to conference semis, Colorado, Dallas. I'm going to Colorado in 7 games. They always have an instant classic against each other. Then we got Edmonton against Vegas. I say Edmonton wins a 7-game series against them. This is really Edmonton's best chance of winning the Stanley Cup after making it back-to-back years and losing to Florida. There's no Florida in this year's playoffs, so Edmonton's got to do this. Otherwise, they're just going to be known as the NHL version of the Buffalo Bills. Boston against Montreal. I'm going to say Montreal actually does get the win here in 6 games. And Carolina against Pittsburgh. Carolina wins at 5. So now we head to conference finals. We got Colorado and Edmonton. 7-game series. I see Edmonton wins over Colorado. Then the other side, it's Montreal and Carolina. Carolina actually sweeps. They move on to the Stanley Cup final, which means it's Carolina versus Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final. And I say Edmonton wins in 6 games. Connor McDavid finally gets his Stanley Cup trophy. And the Edmonton Oilers win for the first time since, I believe, Wayne Gretzky, one of the best goal scorers ever, won the Stanley Cup with them. That will do it for the NBA NHL brackets. Now, onto the NFL mock draft. So here we go. A couple days before the draft begins, we are going to start this NFL mock draft. First up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders that have 1 pick. With the first pick, the Las Vegas Raiders will select Mr. Fernando Mendoza. I mean, this should be very obvious. I think the number 1 pick might be the most obvious one of this whole thing. So now with the second pick, the New York Jets select Orville Reese, edge out of Ohio State. The best defender in Ohio State's team. They did get bounced early in the playoff, but they did become a top 2 team in the country before then. And if you know anything about Ohio State's defense, yeah, it's loaded with talent. With the third pick, Arizona trades the 3rd overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. I see Kansas City sending their 1st and a 3rd and a 5th to Arizona for their 1st and a 4th round pick. I think it's honestly a fair trade. I know the system kind of declined it, but it's actually not that bad. Here's my reason for this. It's really because since the best tackle is not even top 5 talented players, I would say there's no point in Arizona even taking that pick. Instead, trading down so that Francis Mauigo will be there, or at least somebody else will be there by the time they get a pick. So with the 3rd pick, Kansas City selects David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech. Very talented player, the leader in sacks last year. Him and Jacob Rodriguez leading Texas Tech to their first ever playoff bid. This is a no-brainer that he is a top 5 pick. So now we move on to the 4th overall pick. With that 4th pick, the Tennessee Titans will select Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. There were like 3 possible top 10 spots he would fall to. It was either Tennessee, Washington, or Kansas City. Since Kansas City took David Bailey, Titans had to jump at the chance of Jeremiah Love, in my opinion. And this is a very talented running back, the best one in the class by far, from Notre Dame. So, yeah, a little bit clowned on, but still a great pick. With the 5th pick, the New York Giants select Cornell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I was going to debate between him and Jordan Tyson, but Cornell Tate, top 10 player, the best receiver in that class. This should come as no surprise. So then, with the 6th overall pick, the Cleveland Browns select Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle from Miami. The captain of the offensive line that led Miami to the national championship. I think this is actually a pretty good pick by them. If they are committed to Shedeur Sanders to be their starting quarterback, they need to protect him as best as they can, and this is the best guy for it. Now with the 7th pick, Washington selects in this draft, I'm actually going to say they select Ruben Bain, edge defender from Miami. The best defender on that Miami defense that led Miami to what I said before, the national championship, meaning back-to-back Miami players get selected here. And this guy is a beast. I know the draft stock kind of took a hit with his arrest, but I still think he is a top 10 talent. So now with the 8th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints, they go ahead and select Mansour Delane, corner out of LSU. After losing Alontae Taylor to free agency, they needed a hole to be able to fill in that outside corner alongside, I think it's Kool-Aid McKinstry that's there. This guy is actually the best cornerback on the board, so there you go with the best available there. So now we finally get to Arizona. With their pick, they decide to select Spencer Fano, offensive tackle from Utah. Second best offensive lineman. Their biggest need was offensive tackle. They were hoping they could get a better option down the road, and sure enough, Spencer Fano was right there, the Outland Trophy Award winner. So perhaps this was a good move, maybe it's not, who knows? But I know Spencer Fano has a lot of talent, and I think he will go in the top 10. Don't forget the Giants actually have another pick here. They already selected Cornell Tate with their 5th overall pick, and with the 10th pick, they select Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State. Wowed everybody at the Combine. He was actually a part of that defense by Ohio State alongside Arvell Reese that led Ohio State to a 12-2 record. Another 12-win season. One of the best defenses in the country as well. So now we move on to the 11th pick. And the Miami Dolphins will select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State. I was thinking, what do they want? Mekhi Lemon, who is like, 5'11", and Jordan Tyson's 6'2". Obviously, I think Miami would go for the taller receiver. They desperately needed a wide receiver as well, since Jalen Waddle was traded to Denver for a first-round pick. So now Malik Willis does have a weapon to throw to. With the 12th pick, the Dallas Cowgirls select Jermon McCoy, cornerback of Tennessee. No-brainer here. The number one need for the Cowgirls was corners, so Jermon McCoy makes sense. Now, with the 13th pick, the LA Rams are left with selecting Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. If I'm not mistaken, he was the Biletnikoff winner from this past season. He was the best receiver left. That was in like the top 13, maybe top 10, something like that. And when Puka comes back, and alongside Devontae, now they got a slot receiver, Mekhi Lemon. That offense is going to be dangerous. And also, wide receiver was apparently the number one need for the Rams. So now, with the 14th pick, the Baltimore Ravens will select, Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. This is the first shocking pick of this entire thing, but since he fell down all the way down to 14, now teams are like, are we sure we want to pick him, or do we want to pick something else? But I think Ravens do end Caleb Downs' short draft slot. I don't think this will happen, but that'd be crazy if it does. Now with the 15th pick, Tampa Bay ends up selecting Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I hate this as a Falcons fan, but one of the needs for Tampa Bay was tight end, and this was the best one available. They didn't need offensive line. They didn't need another safety because they got Antoine Winfield back there. Maybe could have went corner, but there weren't very many on there, and they also saw the perfect opportunity to see Kenyon Sadiq be the tight end to Cade Otton. So now the Jets are back on the board. Now they got the 16th overall pick. And with the 16th overall pick, they decide to select. This is going to be a tough one. But I think they select Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn. This might be a big head scratcher, but edge was a need for them. And they also already got Arvell Reese, which is like a linebacker and then an edge, like a primary edge. If I know anything about the Jets, I know they're going to somehow screw this up. Now we got the 17th overall pick. The Detroit Lions select Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle out of Georgia. This was best player available, and Lions desperately needed offensive line, and sure enough, Monroe Freeling was the best one there. Also could have went with Caleb Lomu, but I think Detroit would go with best player available in this one. So now we move on to Minnesota, and their number one pick was safety. That's exactly what they go with the 18th overall pick. They select Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. Surprised he fell this far, but his long little slide, well, maybe little, comes to an end. So now that moves us to Carolina. 19th pick, they select Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle out of Utah. This was best player available, and the Panthers needed an offensive tackle more than anything, so there we go. Believe it or not, Dallas is back on the board at number 20, and they actually select Caden Proctor, offensive tackle out of Alabama. None of the above options were what Dallas needed. The only one that was there was offensive tackle, and they select the best one, which was Proctor from the Tide. Now at pick 21, Pittsburgh Steelers. They select Ole Vega Ione. I think I butchered that one. Offensive guard out of Penn State. But this was like the best guard available, and sure enough, he fell all the way down to 21. Hey, much to the delight of Steelers fans everywhere, they need to protect Aaron Rodgers more than anything. With the 22nd pick, I'm trying to go through this quickly. So the LA Chargers, they ended up selecting Caden McDonald. Ooh, tackled out of an Iowa State. They honestly could have went Peter Woods here, but I know with the Chargers, they will find a way to screw this one up. Caden McDonald's actually a D tackle from Ohio State, so that would probably get the Chargers to pick him with the 22nd overall pick over Peter Woods because of, sort of like the team success and everything, but a little head scratcher in my opinion. Now with the 23rd overall pick, not sure why this was a need since, you know why? Because A.J. Brown is looking at a trade perhaps, so Philadelphia ends up selecting Omar Cooper, wide receiver of Indiana, further confirming the rumors that A.J. Brown does want to get traded. And this could be a good replacement for him, considering he had 13 touchdowns, just under 1,000 yards, with Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza. Browns got an offensive lineman with pick 6, but now they got pick number 24, and this time they select Casey Concepcion, wide receiver of Texas A&M, Conception, whichever you want to call it. No surprise here, they needed a wide receiver to help Shador out, and this is a good weapon for him. I mean, considering the receiving room is pretty ass. Now, with the 25th overall pick, Chicago selects Peter Woods, D-tackle out of Clemson. How the hell he slid down here, I don't know. But good for Chicago to get him with pick number 25. So now, with the 26th overall pick, Buffalo selects the 26th best player on the board, according to this website. They select Akeem Mesidor, edge of Miami. No surprise here, edge was their number one need, and sure enough, there was one right there for him. Now with the 27th overall pick, San Francisco selects Blake Miller, tackle out of Clemson. This was also best prospect available. Now with the 28th pick, the Houston Texans select Kristen Miller, D-tackle out of Georgia. This was also a big need for them. 29th overall pick, they already got edge, so now they look to corner. With the 29th pick, Kansas City selects Colton Hood, corner out of Tennessee. The other big need besides an edge defender was corner, so Kansas City definitely hit big with this one. So now with the 30th pick from Denver, Miami ends up selecting Brandon Sisk, corner of South Carolina. Corner was basically the number 2 need for Miami, so there we go. 31st overall pick, New England ends up selected Denzel Boston, wide receiver of Washington. That was the number 1 need for the Patriots at wide receiver. And with the 32nd overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Zion Young, edge of Missouri. Edge defender was what Seattle needed. I know it took us to this screen, but overall, I think this wasn't a bad draft. So there you go. There are the results of this NFL mock draft. Obviously, I'm using PFSN for this thing, so shout out to them for allowing me to do this. And there we go. Just so that it is actually free to do so. So if you want to make your own mock draft, be sure to send yours. Maybe on Twitter, maybe on Instagram, I don't know. No, but do send them so I can rank it. Maybe I'll find the time to do so if I do have enough time to do so, since, you know, this whole NCAA football 2004 thing is still going on. Anyways, good luck to every single one of those young men in the heading to the green room on Thursday, and others that are still at home but waiting to get drafted. And good luck to every team as well. Hopefully they pick the right guy. And as for that will end this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. We are so back! If you enjoyed this, make sure you give this a big thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button down below there and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. This is the Grizz signing off for now. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace, love. Keep the Grizzly vibes with you at all times. As always, take care.